Hi, I'm Eric. Welcome to We Do Grammar Points. In this video, I'll talk about English grammar. I'm just going to talk about one point, so it doesn't seem too complicated. In a lesson like this, I hope you come to understand the main idea, but then, to get good at English, the most important thing is to practice as much as possible. Today's grammar point is talking about the future. In English, we don't have a future verb form. Really, we add new words to the basic verb form. For example, if you look at the verb walk, that's the present tense, walk, and the past tense is walked. But to talk about the future, we have to add another word. We don't just change the form of the verb. So, we can say will walk to talk about the future. But in English, there are several choices to use when talking about the future. Like I just said, we could say, I think I'll walk, or something different. I'm going to walk. Or we could say, tomorrow I'm walking. Or we could just say, tomorrow at 3 o'clock I walk. Perhaps most learners like the first choice the most because it seems like a clear future. Just add will to the verb and talk about the future. I will walk to the store. Also, I know from experience that many learners of English like to say going to talk about the future because they hear it often in real practical conversations. And many other languages use going to talk about the future. Many languages have this same kind of future verb point. Spanish and Japanese both use it. Voy a caminar al mercado. O mise ni aruite iko. I'm going to walk to the store. But there are more ways to talk about the future. One way to talk about the future is just to use the present continuous tense. So using this same example, you would say, I'm walking to the store. And the last way to talk about the future is just to use the present tense. I walk to the store. So the present verb forms can also be used to talk about the future. This may seem a little confusing, so now I guess I'll explain. Future will. I think I'll get some coffee at the convenience store. In natural conversation, we use will to talk about the future when we're in the process of making some plans. Will is actually used to talk about the future in a spontaneous way. Spontaneous means doing something without having a plan decided before. Deciding to do something suddenly, in the moment. In other words, using will means you're not sure about the future because you haven't made any plans yet. You haven't thought about this matter previously. You're just thinking about it now. So as an example, if you and your friends are talking about having a picnic at the beach, but you haven't made any plans yet, you might say, let's have a picnic at the beach. Great idea. I think I'll bring the drinks. Okay, I'll make sandwiches. That's fine. Then I guess I'll bring my guitar. This is how you spontaneously talk about the future. But it's also used in general conversation when you just say what you think will happen. I think it'll rain tomorrow. I think Federer will win another tournament. As always, it's good to know what words are often used with each grammar point. Actually, this is really important. When we use will, we often start by saying, I think, or I guess. These expressions come with will and mean, the thought just came into my head now, or I'm not so sure, it's just what I'm thinking. And since will is low in its level of confidence, we can use might and may in almost the same way that we use will. For example, I think it might rain tomorrow. I think Federer may win another tournament. It's also used in the news a lot, and you might read sentences like, the strong wind will likely last until tomorrow morning. So if we use will to talk about a future plan we've never talked about before, because this is spontaneous, why do we use going to? Future going to. I'm going to play soccer later. Well, going to has more confidence than will because this form is used to talk about something we have thought about before, or we've heard some information about this topic before, or maybe we just feel more confident about it. This is not spontaneous, so don't say, I think I'll have lunch with an old friend. It's better to say, I'm going to have lunch with an old friend. The reason this is better is because you must have made a plan. You must have already talked to the old friend about having lunch together. For another example, don't say, I think I'll go to the dentist tomorrow after work. Instead, say, I'm going to go to the dentist tomorrow after work. The reason is you must have made an appointment with the dentist already. Or there must be some problem with your tooth which caused you to think about it before. Now, if your friend says, I think I'll go to the park later, this means he just thought of this idea right now. But if he says, I'm going to go to the park later, this is something he's thought about already. He's already decided to do this. In other words, if your teacher asks you what you're going to do after class, you could say, I think I'll go to the bookstore. That's fine. Or you could say, I'm going to go to the bookstore. That's fine too. The first one just means you haven't thought about it before. This is just a spontaneous idea. And the second one means this is something you have already decided to do. You have thought about this idea before. Going to do something often becomes gonna do something, especially in daily conversation. This isn't a big problem because it's easy to hear, and learners of English usually like using it because it seems cool and friendly. We're gonna meet by the station. That's fine to say. Future B-I-N-G. I'm sorry, I'm visiting Disneyland with my cousin next weekend. Once again, the next future verb form has more certainty than the previous one. If you say that you are doing something in the future, you have already made the plans. You've already made preparations. You've thought a lot about it. You know many details about the plan and you're really sure it's going to happen. You're ready to do it. I'm going to the beach next weekend with my family. If someone says this, it shows more confidence than the other two forms. The person is very certain about this idea. They must have talked about the plans with their family, and maybe they've already made the preparations. Furthermore, this form is used to tell other people why you can't do something else, with them, for example. If your friend asks you to study together on Saturday, you could show them that it's completely impossible. To explain why you can't do something else, say, oh, I can't study with you on Saturday. I'm going to the beach with my family. Your friend can't argue or discuss the matter with you because using this future verb form shows clearly that you have already decided to do this and you've already started making the preparations. You can't change it. I'm going to the beach with my family. This expresses very high certainty. Future present simple. The lecture begins tomorrow at 7 o'clock in the evening. Finally, the last way to talk about the future is probably the least common to use, but it shows the most certainty. We don't use it so much in daily conversation because this form is only used when we talk about a schedule. If you and your friend are looking at a schedule, a train schedule or a schedule of classes, you can say, the train arrives at 3:30 in the afternoon. Or you could say, the class finishes at 6 o'clock in the evening. It's for a very specific situation. When you use this future verb form, there should be a timetable or a schedule in front of you that you can see and read. The information should be visible. And with this verb form, you should say the time in the future when the schedule actually happens. My appointment is at 4:30 in the afternoon. Be careful. Here are a few problems I've noticed from teaching English. Will becomes ul, especially in daily conversation. I'm sure you may know this, but it's a big problem for English language learners because it's very hard to hear. I'll call you later. As a result, many English language learners use the simple present too much. I call you later. If you're learning English, you probably think the native speaker is using the present simple tense, but they are really using the future will. Maybe you just can't hear it. The sound is so soft and quick that only native speakers can hear it. I think they'll come to the concert. I think they come to the concert. Did you hear it? And here's one more thing. This is a little complicated. The future will means you haven't thought about it before, very much at least. And the going to do future means you have thought about it before. There's a little difference in confidence level, like I said before, but you can change that. So if your friend asks you who you think will win the tennis match, you could say, I think maybe Federer is going to win. Going to win means you have thought about it before, but my confidence is a little low. I think maybe. You could also say, oh, Federer will definitely win. This time you use definitely with will to show more confidence. But will is a spontaneous thought. You hadn't thought about it before. Native English speakers often do things like this without thinking. It's a natural part of speaking, actually. But it might be a little difficult to try yourself. Anyway, it's okay to get mixed up. Don't worry if you feel a little confused. These aren't such strong rules. You may not say them exactly right every time, but it's not necessary. However, if you do learn to use these future verb forms in the way I just showed you, you'll sound more like a native speaker, and you'll understand what other people are really thinking and feeling a little better.